Anyways, the Taylor Swift psyop is a psyop incepted by another psyop. Who knows what's going on anymore? But either way, I don't think the establishment can hang on much longer. What is up? My name is Eric. This channel is called Report and Opine. I am back. This, of course, is the epicenter for all of your current and captivating coastal elite chaos. So please hit that subscribe button, like the video, ring the notification bell, leave a comment or two, share this with a friend. Let's go. Now, I absolutely love this first story. It is personal to me. There could be no better I told you so story. But before I get there, I do want to mention that I got an interview coming up with a man named Seneca Scott. He is working hard in Oakland, California to recall the awful, corrupt, progressive mayor, regressive mayor, Shang Tao. Different story. Be on the lookout for that coming up soon. But first, from the San Francisco Standard, decade-old cannabis dispensary to close, blames deteriorating downtown San Francisco. And, fun fact, I actually used to work at this dispensary many years ago, literally when it first opened, a decade ago, 2014, yeah, a long time ago. When weed was medicinal and all you had to do was tell some Skype doctor that you had a football injury in high school or something and they would give you a weed card. It's all been downhill since then, but that is a little bit of a different story. They say, the Bloom Room, an 11-year-old cannabis dispensary in San Francisco's Soma, announced Friday that its 471 Jesse Street location would close until conditions improve downtown. So that's basically never. And this is so good because you will see here a man named Steven Retchiff. Shout out Steve-O. We went to college together way back in the day. He was the manager of this particular dispensary. In fact, he actually hired me many years ago. But that's beside the point because more recently, he has come onto my Instagram and started trolling me and telling me that I'm a right-wing bigot, conspiracy theorist, or whatever. That was only a handful of months ago. He somehow found my Report and Opine Instagram. I encourage everybody to follow me there. He found it and really took offense to an interview I posted with a man in Washington Square Park, really just talking about how he goes to church. I mean, it was very weird how offended he got at that, and he also got offended at another video that I did about the San Francisco ad campaign for tourism, where they dropped billions of dollars into this thing to convince people that San Francisco is still a good place to go, when obviously it's not. People are fleeing left and right. Hotels, weed dispensaries, Nordstrom. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But my point is, this man found my Instagram account, trolled me, called me all the worst names in the book. And for the record, if anybody cares, he is white. And now his dispensary is closing. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than this. It goes on. Due to the deteriorating situation in downtown San Francisco, to ensure the safety of our customers, team members, we have made the difficult decision to close Bloom Room San Francisco until conditions improve. They will not. Nobody is going to do it. Even if somebody tried to start cleaning it up all yesterday, it would take a decade at least. Several other businesses around the block of Jesse Street have closed in recent years. So here's the thing. When all the way back in the day, when I worked there, it was pretty disgusting. Like I said, you just kind of had to show up to some weirdo in the office, or even a Zoom call, a Skype call, a FaceTime, and say, "Oh, I can't sleep, doc," and they would give you a card. And it was all fake. Everybody knew it was fake, but it was a little bit better than what they have now. Then it went completely recreational, and that was the moment when you knew that the government overreach was going to be through the roof. They were going to start taxing people, sky-high taxes. Businesses were going to start closing, and they did. Now, this business was still thriving, but it is closing because of crime. And it just goes to show that one way or the other, they are going to get you, right? So they're going to tax you into oblivion, or they will let your city deteriorate into oblivion, and you will be gone either way. Still in San Francisco, from the Chronicle, They say this Bay Area school district spent $250,000 on, quote, woke kindergarten. Test scores fell even further. Well, imagine my shock. And this is pretty crazy. A Hayward elementary school struggling to boost low test scores and dismal student attendance is paying $250,000 for an organization called Woke Kindergarten to train teachers to confront white supremacy, disrupt racism and oppression, and remove those barriers to learning. So this is obviously some sort of weird shakedown money laundering scam. Nobody thought this was going to work. You thought you were going to pay somebody $250,000 to tell you that everything is racist and that was going to boost test scores. It's just impossible. And we will see. I've kind of gone down this rabbit hole of figuring out how the BLM protesters from the Summer of Love all the way back in 2020 somehow got these $1 million payouts because it just didn't make sense. No matter how you slice it, even if you were one of those protesters, you still wouldn't be able to make sense of how you were, quote unquote, paid out millions of dollars. And then you come to find out that their lawyers are basically a weirdo commie shakedown organization, and they are in cahoots with the Democratic Party. Efforts to reach the organization were not successful, with an automated response saying the founder, who also provides the training, was recovering from surgery. So when the media tried to reach out to the founder of this organization, conveniently, that person was not available for comment. How did we get here, right? Well, I have several theories, but district officials defended the program this week, saying that Woke Kindergarten did what it was hired to do. No, it literally didn't. The district pointed to improvements in attendance and suspension rates, and that the school was no longer on the state watch list, only to learn from the Chronicle that the school was not only still on the list, but also had dropped to a lower level. So they just blatantly lied. District officials just blatantly lied, saying, I guess, actually, you know what? The district officials didn't lie, because the organization came in and did exactly what it was hired to do, make everything worse. Because we know there was a man, I forget his name, but he said everything woke turns to shit. He said that. I forget his name, but it was a good point. I mean, they literally are using woke in the title, which is crazy. I've been all around the country asking people, what does woke actually mean? And if people would self-identify as woke, or has it just become an insult or pejorative? And most people say they wouldn't even self-identify as woke. But here, this organization, which is clearly amongst the worst of the woke, and they are proudly, I mean, this has to come to a halt. It just does. I'm sure we've all seen by now this mega viral footage of the migrants, or the asylum seekers who beat up a cop, got released from jail without bail, and then gave the finger to the cameras. We've all seen that by now. I mean, it is completely infuriating, and it only gets worse from there, because we still have, the $53 million for prepaid debit cards or whatever. We'll get to that. And Joyless Reid, and she has now covered her Trump wing with a newsboy hat. Different story. But apparently, these guys, between beating up police officers and punching Nordstrom Rack employees, they are trying to launch a SoundCloud rap career.
Siempre ando con mi rifle donde quiera que yo salgo, los peines en la Nike, la Jordan van de lado, no sé ni lo que pasa.
Yeah, that's going to be a no from me, dog. But unfortunately, them beating up a police officer and fleeing to California might be among the best thing they could do to launch their rap career. Now, let's make no mistake that the Row in Times Square and the Roosevelt, those are complete crime magnets. They are drug-infested party animal baby mills. It is disgusting. But even as New York City police officers are getting beat up by migrants, the city council is trying to pretend that they want the police officers to document every single interaction with the public. On top of all that, and several other awful things, I mean, literally collapsing buildings in New York City. On top of all that, New York City launches $53 million program to hand out prepaid credit cards to migrant families. Now, apparently the argument here is that this will actually save the city money because it is cheaper to give these people credit cards to buy the food they want so they don't throw away the Uncrustables that the city was giving to them because they want the food of their native land. Now, obviously, I mean, there's so many levels to this insanity. I mean, we could talk about, deport them all. Yeah, we should clean up this mess. Absolutely. But the idea that we even got here in the first place is just beyond ridiculous. And even as the news, even as this guy, I mean, the photo, the video of these people giving the finger to the camera has gone hugely viral. It is iconic, to say the least. A great summary of the past 2 or 3 years of this wide open border. And while that's happening, they want to launch a program costing the taxpayers $53 million. And look, I'm no economist, I'm no politician. I don't know exactly how it works, but anything other than getting all of these people out of here, you could spend that very same $53 million, round up every single one of them, and ship them back to the Rio Grande River or the Darien Gap or wherever the hell they came from. Also, I think we already know that Joy Reid is a completely maniacal, manipulative Democrat shill hack. And she is now mad at 50 Cent. Well, she's not mad. She tries to be nice because she knows even what she's saying here is so outrageous that she has to be incredibly nice to even try to make this make sense. But she is addressing 50 Cent, who we know now has tepidly endorsed Donald Trump, which of course is a bridge too far, but he's too rich, he's too successful, he's self-made, he's also from Queens, just like Donald Trump. So I think it's pretty clear who 50 Cent is riding with. But Joy Reid wants you to know that, you still, the reason it's just ridiculous. And shout out Joy. I guess she had, she heard one too many jokes about her Donald Trump wig, so she has covered it with this newsboy cap.
Okay, guys. So rapper 50 Cent posted on his IG page, on his Instagram, this post, which talks about a $53 million program that the current mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, is launching to hand out prepaid debit cards to migrant families in New York. And he's quoting this New York Post article, the Rupert Murdoch owned New York Post. Have to always throw that in, same people on Fox News, quoting this article about that program. Okay, so let's talk about it. Now, in the comments on 50's post, there are lots of people going off saying, why are we giving this money to migrants?
Oh no, on 50 Cent's post, there's people living in reality that haven't just bought into everything me and the rest of the establishment Democrat shill media are telling them not to believe your lying eyes. Can you believe that?
When we're not giving that money to Americans, lots and lots and lots of pro-Trump argle-bargle, because of course 50 ends his rant about it by saying maybe Trump is the answer. Really? Okay, let's start out by talking about the program itself. Here is an article that tells you factually what this program is about. Let me read a little bit of it to you. Use of these prepaid debit cards will only be permitted at bodegas, grocery stores, supermarkets, and convenience stores, with participating families required to sign an affidavit swearing to use the cards for food and baby supplies or risk being booted from the program.
So they have to sign a notice saying that we're only going to buy baby supplies with this, right? So we just beat up a cop and we flipped the bird to the camera. I've literally been attacked by a migrant. And flip the bird by a migrant. But they have to sign a promissory notice.
According to the Post, which compared it to the state's food stamp program known as SNAP. So again, The cards are like the SNAP cards that Americans also use in New York City.
Yeah, so how about you leave it to Americans? Why are you giving it to people who have crossed the border illegally? What are you talking about, lady?
And now here's an important thing that you have to recognize, and this is a little bit more in the article. Not only will this provide families with the ability to purchase fresh food for their culturally relevant diets and the baby...
Oh, they're culturally relevant diets? If you wanted to keep that diet, it's simple enough.
And the baby supplies of their choosing, but the pilot program is also expected to save New York City more than $600,000 per month, or more than $7.2 million annually.
That's false. It is not going to save them money. What she is going to say here is that they were wasting the food that they were being given in the shelter, and this way they're going to be able to buy the food that they want and save the money and eliminate the waste, except for that is using the assumption that they are owed anything at all.
Why? Because New York City is already paying to feed these migrants who are in New York City shelters. They have a fiduciary duty to not let them starve to death. So
nope, that is false. They do not have a fiduciary duty to not let them starve to death. It's just not true. She completely made that up. This actually goes on for a couple more minutes of her rambling about why this is the same thing as Americans and 50 Cent is crazy and there's so many Trump Republicans. Bro, we can all see it by now, and they just refuse. And again, you gotta respect the hustle, because no matter how many times reality flies directly in the face of their narrative, all of their talking points conflict with one another. They just want you to believe it. And the dam is breaking, which we can even see in San Francisco. It was only a couple months ago that the very same manager of that cannabis club called me a crazy right-winger and said, "Don't leave your backpack in the car." Fine, Steve-O, fair enough. Fast forward 3 months and you're closing. We can all see it. Some people are coming around, but obviously Joy Reid is getting far too much money to say it doesn't make sense. And quite obviously, Joy Reid, she is a grown woman. She knows it does not make sense, and that's why for the millionth and a half time, this is far more evil than incompetence or, pie in the sky, pipe dream progressive. This is pure evil manipulation. Now, here is a clip from MSNBC, and they are coming to terms with the fact that some people are no longer buying their narrative. Maybe it's because they live and they breathe, and no matter how many times you tell them not to believe their lying eyes, it's just too much, because they are living it. They're living through the controlled demise. They're living through the failed policies for them, but actually quite successful for the politicians who put them into place. But they say, a flashing red light for Dems. Chicago resident on Biden's handling of the migrant crisis.
Democratic Party, we're watching you.
Yeah.
We are disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
We are angry.
Yeah.
We are offended. Mm-hmm. And we feel like we're being mistreated, misused.
Yep, they just crossed you. They took you for granted. They literally said things like, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. And now people are not wearing it anymore. And MSNBC is trying to figure out how this could possibly happen.
And disrespected. Yeah. We will not continue to be disrespected by the Democratic Party. As I said yesterday, and I'll say today and tomorrow, if you're an independent candidate, Green Party candidate, Republican candidate, now is your time in this city.
Joining us now, the Chicago resident you just heard there, caught in traffic.
Now that's Katie Tur, right? Do we remember Katie Tur?
So you say you're drawing these big crowds, and I was there. You drew a big crowd in New Hampshire.
Don't say the way you put it. Everything's so negative. I'm not saying
negative.
I'm not saying I'm drawing. You're saying I'm drawing.
You're number two. Why do people respond to you so much?
I'm actually number one in Huffington Post and some others, and the new polls haven't even come out yet.
Why are they responding to you so much?
Because I tell the truth.
And her father/mother, who went viral some years ago for threatening Ben Shapiro when Shapiro chose not to use the proper pronouns, or he said sir, or something like that.
Chromosomes within our
both know
nuclei. Yeah, go ahead.
chromosomes don't necessarily mean you're male or female.
Gender.
With gender
identity. Go ahead. No, so
especially, but even so, you have a thing like Klinefelter's syndrome. So you don't know what you're talking about. You're not educated on genetics.
Would you actually like to discuss the genetics? Or
well, no,
what
no.
Are your genetics?
So I'd stay away from the genetics and back to the brain scans.
You cut that out now, or you'll go home in an ambulance.
Yeah, that seems mildly inappropriate for a political discussion.
So that doesn't really have anything to do with this story, but just think about the people we're dealing with here. On MSNBC, this news anchor is trying to figure out why the black people aren't buying the narrative anymore, and her father has now become her mother, and are we to believe that those things are not connected at all? Because once again, the transformer agenda, the transanity, is the big ask. If you can get somebody to believe that, they won't believe their lying eyes.
Russ, Kata, it's really great to have you. Tell me what you are frustrated about specifically.
Well, one of the things that I'm frustrated about is the fact that the Biden administration is not handling the migrant crisis in a way that is good for them or the cities that the migrants are being sent to. I certainly don't want to demonize the migrants because not a lot of what is happening.
Now, I do. I 100% do, because they've given me the middle finger. They've swung briefcases at me. They're beating up cops. They're flipping the bird to the camera. So I do want to demonize the migrants, but, you know, she doesn't. She's a better person than me.
Is their fault. I think that our mayor, our governor, as
well. Now, I'm sorry, I'm going to pause it one more time now. Perhaps it is not their fault, because they're being manipulated by the political regime and whatever sort of NGOs and Soros type of organizations that are telling them to do this. So it's not really their fault. They are clearly pawns, and I wouldn't put all the blame on them, but when you start attacking people, then you are going to get some of that blame.
Well, as President Biden has to step in and make some changes to what is happening right now. Right now, it seems as if our borders are just open and that people are freely coming in, and that there are no laws that are being followed in terms of immigration. And so what is happening here in Chicago is that we are seeing our city spend up to $48 million a month to house and take care of migrants. Now, when you talk about the Black communities here in the city of Chicago, and you talk about the years of disinvestment in our communities, in our schools, and all around us, and you see this amount of money being spent to people who have come from outside of this country, that is a problem for us.
Well, they sold you down the river, right? They realized that, oh man, we're losing them. Well, we thought we had the black vote all shored up, so we're going to replace them. Now that, of course, was a conspiracy theory, but we're going to get rid of them. We're going to bring in these new people, and I mean, they just double-crossed you. If you believed that the Democrats were here to help, that's fair enough. You could have bought it, but we've gone too far. They've gone too far. We all were okay with a little bit of insider trading and tax money embezzlement and some weirdo sex parties or whatever they were doing behind closed doors. But they got way too greedy. They started shutting down businesses. They started forcing pharmaceuticals. They started removing American children from schools in New York. And now that park out in the Boston area, they're literally coming for what you already have. This woman is smart enough to see through it, while Katie Tur, daughter of a transformer, is saying, well, could you please explain it to me like I'm 5, because I can't understand. We spent the last 6 or 7 years lying directly to your face, and now people aren't buying it, but we just want to know exactly what's going on.
And I think that one of the reasons I got involved in this is because when you talk about coming into the Austin community, a community that has already been blighted and disinvested in, and talking about one of the major crown jewels of the community, you're talking about taking it away from the community to house migrants at a time where we're seeing increased crime because our children don't have things to do, they don't have jobs, and we're seeing this money being spent, and it's being spent on other people in communities that could really benefit for that money. Here in Chicago, I was sitting in a meeting with the Board of Education, and they talked about a $391 million shortfall that they're going to have this upcoming year. And when you look at the money that has been spent on the migrants, you know, we have a problem with that. And I heard someone say earlier that here in Chicago, we're talking about turning away from the Democratic Party. I have already turned. I will be voting Republican this time around. And I don't think that that's just the sentiment of Kata Trust. I think that's the sentiment of a lot of people around the entire United States.
Yep. So she says she has turned around, right? I mean, you can only take so many slaps in the face before you turn around. And not only is she saying, I'm not doing it anymore, but she, as you know, an active community member, is saying, it's not just me.
And basically, you know, for years, the Democratic Party has taken our vote for granted, and they feel that they can continue to ignore us, not support us, not give us the things that we need in our communities, and we're going to continue to vote for them. We are not our grandparents. We're different. And when we see that you don't have our best interests at heart, we're going to go elsewhere. I'm going elsewhere.
Kata, that's a big statement. If President Biden were listening right now, or the White House was listening, what would you tell them to try to get your vote back?
I don't know that they can get my.
Please come back. Well, you know, we work for President Biden, and he wants it. Now, we can have the debate on whether voting is even real or not, but how could he get your vote back? And she's like, nah, it's too late. It's too late. It's too late. The disrespect has been so thick. There's no way. What are they going to say now? Oh, we're sorry. We're going to put the black people above the illegals now. It's like you overplayed the hand. There is no going back. Just like when you cut your junk off and regret it. There's no going back.
I vote back. I think that one of the biggest problems with this whole situation is when this started, I called my congressman, I called my step representative, I called my state senator, I called our county commissioner, and I tried to sit down to meet with them. I even called our mayor, and I wanted to sit down and talk to them to find out if there was just something that I was missing, if there was some information that I needed in order to make me sit comfortably with.
Exactly. I mean, it's so crazy, right? It's so crazy. Like, you have to take a step back and say, wait, maybe I'm tripped. This couldn't possibly be the case. Like, let me take a step back and make sure this all makes, well, none of it makes sense, but let me make sure this is correct. I got to take a step back because it just couldn't be. And then you realize it is. They're that insane.
What was happening. And nobody had time to sit down with me. Nobody had time to meet with me to discuss this issue. And so as important as this issue has become to the Black community, and the fact that our mayor, who I know, whom I supported, whom I donated money to his campaign, has not bothered to pick up the phone and to call me and to talk to me about what's happening, is a slap in the face for me. And so, no, I cannot support people who will not support me and my community.
Kata Trust. Kata, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's over. The writing is on the wall. We can all see it. There is no going back. You can't come out and say, oh, we're going to put the black people ahead of the illegals this time. Even if you said that, there would be no reason for them to believe that line of nonsense. And now the establishment is so desperate. Oh, we're going to trot out Obama. We're going to get Bill creepy Slick Willie Clinton, the husband of the woman who lost to Donald Trump when it was damn near illegal to be a Trump supporter. We're going to get all them on board. We are going to get Taylor Swift on board. But even if we do, you know, we're not, you're a conspiracy theorist if you want to believe that the Biden administration is looking to enlist the help of one of the biggest pop stars in the world, even though They already had her help in 2020 with the world famous Biden 2020 cookies, but you've been so bad that you now are asking her to basically re-up on that. And I don't know, maybe this is unpopular, but I don't know if she's going to do it, because she knows she is not stupid. She is one of the most famous women in the world. And she knows that, she has enough money. You can't pay Taylor Swift enough money. And she knows that which way the wind is blowing, just like Snoop Dogg, just like YG. She knows it's pretty much over. You can't back up a Brinks truck to her house because she's already too rich. So the desperation is real. Anyways, the Taylor Swift psyop is a psyop incepted by another psyop. Who knows what's going on anymore? But either way, I don't think the establishment can hang on much longer. We can all see right through it. The facade has completely collapsed. They would have to resort to some pretty extreme things, which is not beyond them, because they are desperate to maintain power. But we shall see. Anyways, be on the lookout for my interview with Seneca Scott, who is working diligently to recall completely corrupt hack Oakland Mayor Shang Tao. I also still have loads of footage from New York and AmFest, a bunch of good stuff coming up, so stay tuned. But here's a funny clip.
Could you state your name, sir?
Larry David.
Mr. David, I'm Counselor Condon.
Counselor Condon, nice to meet you.
Have you ever served on a jury before?
No.
Have you ever been the victim of a serious crime?
My cousin once stole an almond joy from me. It was upsetting at the time, but...
I don't think that would be considered a serious crime. Is there any reason you can think of that you'd not be able to decide this case in a fair and impartial manner?
I don't know if I could be impartial, Mr. Condon, given that the defendant is a Negro.